Fans of Return to Castle Wolfenstein's quirky and underrated multiplayer mode, Enemy Territory, should be pleased to find that it's been resurrected in the most unlikely of places, the Quake universe. And as odd as that may seem, it's a pretty good fit. At first glance, you might think that Enemy Territory Quake Wars is just a cheap knockoff of the Battlefield games. But there's a lot of stuff going on here that makes playing this game a whole different kettle of fish. Instead of trying to capture and hold spawn points until your opponents cry uncle, Enemy Territory uses an assault-style game structure. One team is charged with completing a series of linear objectives, while the other team does its best to stop them. Servers can be set to run simple, one-off maps, or run a campaign, which is a series of 3 maps played in a row, where all stats and bonuses carry over. There's also a stopwatch mode where each team takes turns attacking and defending to see who can finish the mission in the least amount of time. We've seen this before in games like Unreal Tournament and in Wolfenstein, but in Enemy Territory, that basic idea has been greatly refined by virtue of larger maps, more varied objectives, and extremely well-balanced character classes. Of course, you have your stock classes to choose from. Soldiers, medics, engineers, field ops, covert ops, and their Strogg counterparts all have significant roles to play in each encounter. But unlike other games of this type, each role, even the support roles, is not only useful, but fun and rewarding to play. For example, the Field Ops class deploys heavy artillery on the battlefield and uses it to strike enemy positions. The only way to do this is to manually locate and paint the target. It's not easy to do in the middle of a firefight, but the payoff, if you succeed, is sweet. Engineers, a much maligned class in other games, are actually one of the more interesting ones to play here. In addition to being able to repair equipment, they can deploy turrets and defuse enemy explosives. Even the generic soldier has more to do than just run and gun around the map. They also carry explosive charges that require timing and finesse to use properly. And what's a shooter without guns? The basic soldier is able to use nearly every weapon in the game. All the usual suspects are here: machine guns, rocket launchers, and shotguns. Since the Strogg use alien technology, the weapons on their side are a little different, but they have the same basic functionality. No one weapon is good for every situation, but soldiers can swap out different weapons during a respawn to meet the need on the battlefield. The Covert Ops, or Infiltrator class if you're playing Strogg, are the only ones able to use sniping weapons. In all, players have quite an arsenal to mess around with. Enemy Territory also sports 13 different vehicles between the two sides. They all work well in complementing the battle without dominating it. While lots of players still make a beeline for the tanks, it's still completely possible to play Enemy Territory as a straight-up infantry and do well. Still, there's just something about hopping into a Strogg Icarus, quietly bounding over the map and raining down death from above, that warms the heart. Too bad, it's also about as strong as cardboard. Combat maps, 12 in all, take place all over Earth, and each one has a genuinely unique and interesting series of objectives. The maps are open enough to appear large, but focused enough to keep players where the action is. You do have the option to play by yourself with bots filling out the ranks, and although the bots aren't half bad, this is really a game designed for multiple human players. What holds Enemy Territory together so well is how the game encourages teamwork, but never quite forces it. This is mainly due to the mission structure in the game. During each phase of the assault, there's a different main objective that your team needs to achieve before moving on to the next phase. This might be to move and deploy a command vehicle, or blow up some alien thingy, or repair the alien thingy that's about to be blown up. Sometimes the objective can only be accomplished by one specific class. In a different game, that might cause every player on your team to suddenly switch over. But in Enemy Territory, there are also numerous sub-missions that spring up dynamically as the game progresses. If the enemy deploys a turret, your Covert Ops players will get a mission to go and hack that turret so your team can use it. And anytime a player falls in battle, it automatically spawns a medic mission to revive the fallen player.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome.
These missions appear clearly on the map in HUD, so it's never difficult to figure out what to do next. And since completing missions is always a benefit to your team, and it nets your character experience points to level up his powers and abilities, it's always a good idea to try and do them. What you get in playing Enemy Territory is a focused, team-based game that constantly rewards the player for doing whatever it is they can to help their team win. Enemy territory sports the browns and grays that are common in war games, and especially in Quake games, but at least it's easy to tell the different vehicles and map elements apart. Honestly, the game does look good, but not quite top of the line. However, it also runs very well on mid-range machines, with many of the graphical options turned up to high. And that's good, because in a multiplayer game, choppy gameplay is the kiss of death. Players have many different ways to chat with their teammates. Most will probably use the quick chat, which fires off quick one-liners depending on the context of their actions. It should work well, but since there's only one voice type for humans and Strogg, you'll quickly get sick of hearing the same voice, saying the same things over and over.
I'm a medic. Where to, sir?
Making matters worse, bots appear to be overly chatty, constantly calling out requests and responses during the game. After a couple of hours of that, you'll just start ignoring voice chat altogether. Players looking for yet another Battlefield game might come away confused and frustrated by enemy territory. It's a far more nuanced game than you might expect, but it's also very forgiving, allowing the player to find his own role in the fight. You could think of it as a multiplayer game that's very friendly to the single-player mentality. Or you could think of it as a kick-ass online action game. Either way, you'd be right.